Imagine waking up one morning to find out that every geography teacher, astronaut, and globe manufacturer had been wrong all along. The Earth isn't a sphere, but a perfectly flat disk floating in space. Congratulations. You now live on a cosmic dinner plate. At first glance, you might think not much would change. After all, if the ground feels solid under your feet, who cares about its shape? But very quickly, problems begin to pile up, literally and figuratively. The first and most obvious issue is gravity. On a round Earth, gravity pulls everything toward the center of the sphere. That's why oceans stay wrapped around the globe, and why you don't slide off the side when you climb a mountain. On a flat Earth, gravity would still pull toward the center. But now, center isn't under your feet. It's somewhere in the middle of the disk. If you lived near that central point, things would feel fairly normal. But the farther you traveled toward the edge, the stronger the sideways pull would get. By the time you reach the outer rim, you'd be walking at a steep angle, like trying to hike up a never-ending hill that just happens to be horizontal. Oceans wouldn't stay put either. Water would naturally rush toward the middle, forming one gigantic central ocean, while the edges dried out into barren wastelands. So much for tropical beach vacations on the edge of the world. Now, let's think about the sun. On our spherical Earth, the sun's rays spread out evenly, creating day and night cycles around the globe. On a flat disk, the sun would have to act more like a spotlight, hovering above the surface in circles. Imagine a tiny desk lamp trying to light an entire dinner plate. Some areas would get bright daylight, while others would fall into perpetual twilight. If you lived near the middle, you'd get plenty of sun. But near the rim, your days might be short, dim, and permanently weird. Agriculture would collapse, weather patterns would go haywire, and entire regions would freeze while others roasted. And speaking of weather, the winds would never behave themselves. On a spherical planet, air circulates smoothly in giant loops, creating predictable jet streams and trade winds. On a flat Earth, air currents would slam into the rim and swirl chaotically toward the center, forming endless superstorms. Hurricanes would no longer be rare seasonal disasters. They'd be Tuesday. Travel would be equally confusing. On our globe, you can set off in one direction and eventually end up where you started. On a flat Earth, if you keep walking in a straight line, you'd either fall off the edge, assuming there's no magic wall keeping you in, or smash into the mysterious rim barrier that flat Earth theorists love to talk about. Airplanes wouldn't have round-the-world flights anymore. Instead, every route would be a weird zigzag trying to avoid the gravitational side pull. GPS satellites, which orbit a spherical Earth, wouldn't even make sense. You'd need an entirely new navigation system, probably involving giant glowing signposts saying, "Turn left at the edge." But let's assume for the sake of fun that life adapts. Humanity builds giant cities in the central zones, where gravity feels stable and water is abundant. The middle becomes the most valuable real estate in history, while the outer regions turn into dystopian wastelands. Trade wars break out over access to the center. Sea people at the edges develop tilted architecture to match their slanted horizon, living in houses that look permanently crooked. Tourism ads brag about extreme vacations at the edge of the world, complete with warning labels. Bring ropes, wear climbing shoes, and watch out for runaway cows sliding downhill toward the center. Eventually, scientists would face a much bigger problem: space itself. On a spherical Earth, orbits make sense. Satellites, moons, and planets all follow the rules of gravity. But on a flat disk, none of this holds up. Our moon would have to hover like a UFO above the surface, carefully circling the plate without ever drifting away. The planets in the sky wouldn't rise or set. They'd just loop awkwardly above us like decorations in a cosmic mobile. Tides would vanish, seasons wouldn't exist, and eclipses would be so confusing that astronomers would probably quit their jobs. Of course, the biggest issue isn't physical at all. It's philosophical. A flat Earth changes everything we know about our place in the universe. No more tiny blue marble floating elegantly in the vastness of space. Instead, we'd be a giant frisbee spinning, or not spinning, under a spotlight sun, surrounded by questions nobody could answer. Where does the plate end? What lies beneath it? Is there another disk stacked under ours, like some kind of cosmic pancake tower? Humanity would probably split into endless arguments, religions, and conspiracy theories, trying to explain what's under the tablecloth of reality. So, what would happen if the Earth was flat? At best, we'd face a world of impossible physics, collapsing ecosystems, and sideways gravity. At worst, we'd discover that the universe itself doesn't follow the rules we thought it did. Either way, it wouldn't be the paradise that flat Earth dreamers imagine. It would be a tilted, storm-ridden nightmare where just walking toward the horizon could feel like climbing Mount Everest. And let's be honest, if the Earth really were flat, we'd probably still find a way to argue about it on the internet. The world is full of amazing what-ifs, and we continue to imagine them together. This was the Imagine If channel. Let's keep imagining together, because there are even more incredible stories ahead. Tell us in the comments what other topics you'd like to see. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on new incredible stories. And now, let's imagine what happens next.